Okay, guys, I did it. I watched Camp Rock 3, so get off my case. Here's what I think. I bet you're wondering, does Connect 3 have enough screen time? Are the songs just as good as 1 and 2? And does it feel like a genuinely good movie aside from just nostalgia bait? I'm gonna answer all these questions in my completely spoiler-filled review of Camp Rock 3. So if you don't want spoilers, you better turn off the video right now because it's all spoilers. I just really want to tell you guys my unadulterated thoughts on the whole experience. So let's get started. For context, I did this the old-fashioned way. I got the DirecTV app and I checked through the schedule to find Disney Channel, click on it, see the commercials, and you know what? Like, it was the true 2000s nostalgia experience. I felt like I needed to be in the shoes of Johnny, who sat down in 2008 to watch Camp Rock 1 and stared at my phone while Camp Rock 2 came out in 2010. I was never like a huge fan of these movies, but I definitely felt like the music was awesome. And for me, music does go a long way, as you'll know, because I'm a musical writer myself. And a lot of crazy things happened in this movie, and a lot of weird feelings came up for me that I didn't expect to have in like a long time. And I'm not saying that it was the same experience as Wizards Beyond Waverly Place or the iCarly reboot. No, this was special. This was interesting. I feel like the main characters, Sage and Desi, really take us for a spin in a new story in a way that, like, I could not have predicted. Now, before we start, we definitely need a brief rundown. So, Camp Rock 1 is all about Mitchie going to camp for the first time. She lies to everybody that her dad is this big record producer because she feels embarrassed that she makes less money than other people, and everybody there is, like, kind of rich and popular. We really empathize with her because she just wants to fit in and only really knows how to express herself through music. But since this is all like industry-related camp activities, it's hard for her to fit in. We've got a crazy cool ensemble of characters that all want to do different things, and basically what they want to do with their music careers is kind of how we figure out them personally. Like Allison Stoner wants to be a dancer, or a DJ, or I don't know, we forgot that by the second movie, so does it matter? And I just couldn't stop seeing Demi and Joe Jonas on screen and comparing them to Sunny with a Chance, guys. I love Sunny with a Chance. I didn't need a movie of it. It feels like the acting, everything is super representative of Demi, Sonny, and Chad Dillon Cooper. It just felt like a movie. Did they just want Demi to do those specific stories every time? I mean, obviously Sunny with a Chance was about her learning comedy, and this is about her singing, but she did end up singing in Sunny with a Chance, and she did end up funny in Camp Rock 2. So I guess there's a lot to dissect there. But yeah, watching that movie now, like seeing Sunny with a Chance, it's really hard to watch. I do think Camp Rock 2 was like an upgrade from the first. I think the music was more expressive and exciting, had to do with the plot, really like allowed the characters to go deeper now that we got their intros. We got to see like more things they're struggling with. The villains in it were really interesting and definitely worked against Mitchie in a cool way. Having the second one be about this competition between two camps, Camp Star and Camp Rock, definitely gave them like a common enemy to learn more about each other with, which I thought was like definitely a really good Disney Channel message to get across. And it just ramps and ramps and ramps up until they finally get to like go all out with the final jam. And then by the end of it, I don't know, it was a good watch. It definitely was an improvement. And when 2012 came around, nope, there was not a third one. 2014, nope, not a third one. 2016, nope. 10 years after that, how about? Yeah, that's where we are at now. Camp Rock 3, following new people in new situations. I want to try to break down, like, the story and the characters and how I felt about everything transpiring. It might be a little jumbled all over the place, but I do think it might be fun at the very end to look back at my prediction trailer when it originally came out and said that they were doing Camp Rock 3, because I'm just so curious how much stuff I'm wrong about. So without further ado, let's jump into Camp Rock. Without further ado, why don't we jump into Camp Rock 3? Okay, we actually start with a Demi Lovato song called Brand New Day, which I was not expecting, and it automatically made me wonder if Demi was going to be in it, mainly because I didn't realize, looking back, that everybody spoiled that she was in it, so I was kind of blind when it came to that. So hearing her, like, sing was a very nostalgic start to the movie, and I know the first one didn't start with going right to the camp. It was like a little bit of backstory for Mitchie, but this one just throws you right into it. Oh my god, I thought the little bug at the bottom left screen that said Camp Rock 3 was the title sequence, and I was like, they're just gonna put the title over this? I got unnecessarily mad for absolutely no reason, but I was surprised that they didn't have the ears for Disney Channel anymore. It kind of made me really sad. You know, like, it's just a simple logo now, and in between every commercial break was a different Descendants or Zombies musical number, and I hate when people plug their own musical numbers into things.
She don't know that's all advice.
You like what I did there? So we start with our main character, Sage, and her brother, Desi. It's basically about their sibling relationship for a lot of the movie. I kind of like that because it definitely provides like a unique twist on any kind of like romance they were gonna do. Like the thing is like the original Camp Rocks were a lot more focused on Mitchie's relationship, not necessarily anything with like a friend. Like it's not usually about that. So in this, having it be more sibling based is kind of interesting. I do feel like the tension between them is hard. Like when you get two actors playing siblings, you definitely can see the chemistry, and it sometimes is a little too positive. Like, I don't think siblings are this genuinely positive towards each other. Even the way they hate each other is so respectful. I don't know why, I don't believe they're siblings. Desi's a really interesting character. I feel like he represents like what an artist really is, and that's definitely where you see Demi as an executive producer on this movie. Like, she's really good at telling stories that do have to do with music, and you could tell like there's an authentic connection between this guy and his music, and his biggest flaw being that he needs to go with the flow, and like art for him needs to be organic, and of course Sage is the opposite. Sage is a very like technically driven person, not as far as like there's Sage, who is a very like perfectionist type character, cares a lot about getting things perfect, making the music right, which is very generic and the same for like every artsy movie. It's just like the main character's either too neurotic to like see what's in front of them, or they just go too far. They're like not a rule breaker of sorts, which is interesting because I think Mitchie wasn't really like that. Like, she lied to the entire camp pretty quickly. If anything, this new movie took a generic step in the story direction, which I was surprised because the brother and sister dynamic was very unique. So why do we have to make that character a little bit more two-dimensional than any of the other Camp Rock movies? Like, that was surprising to me. Honestly, like, I also felt like I got the vibe of Goosebumps, like when it's just them in the car getting ready to go to camp. I don't know why. I feel like every Goosebumps episode from 2000s TV started with siblings getting to a new place. So that's probably why I couldn't like take it seriously at very first, because I was just like, dang. And I'm curious what you guys think about the acting. I personally thought that the acting was pretty fine. Like, I don't feel like they were inauthentically portraying things they've never been before. Like, they clearly know that they're just naive kids, and the actors weren't trying to, like, be something they're not, which you could usually sniff out pretty easily. I thought the acting was fine, you know? Like, that part wasn't too bad. Then we meet everybody one by one. The interesting, like, side characters. The supporting roles, essentially, are this cello girl named Rosie, and this drummer named Cliff. And I really liked Cliff because he was definitely neurodivergent representation. Like, just taking the sticks around and like banging on everything. It also just makes me think how as a society, I think we're a lot more open to this stuff now. Like, the way everybody kind of like talks about like being neurodivergent is so casual. Like, a lot of people think they are in a way that's like not diagnosed. So it's just interesting that they found a way to work it into the camp culture, too. Of course, kids are bullying him, but we don't really get to see a lot of the bullies outside of the main bully. But I like it. It definitely makes us side with Cliff because he's different, and people definitely bother him about it. So that is something that I feel like they do a really good job of. Cliff and Fletcher don't really have a reason to be friends until Fletcher makes a good choice, like to help get his sticks off the roof, which I thought was actually really sweet. I feel like they definitely work as like a mismatched friendship, and I really liked it. Then we have the main antagonist. In Camp Rock movies, they don't really have like a main antagonist. They do have like a different perspective character, and in the first movie, I feel like it was the love interest is a little too too cheesy. Like, I don't think they've learned a single thing since the original Camp Rock came out. Like, I feel like they're not, they assume they found the perfect method for making a teen romance movie, and they're just copy and pasting it. It's like the moment they see each other, the moment he gets out of the car, the two things they do completely different. And they reserved some parts of Sage's relationship with her brother and Fletcher and almost divided them equally, as opposed to like just having Joe be the main antagonist and be like so three-dimensional where he has a lot of sides to him. Instead of one character with a lot of sides, it's like two characters with one side to them. And that was something I couldn't help but notice about the writing. It gives the vibe that like Disney knows their story structure and what they want to do, that they don't stray away from their template too much. And that part obviously bothers me, but there was a lot of nice distracting elements that got out of my way. The cello girl is really interesting because she shares literally the same attributes as Sage, where she's like this perfectionist and she wants to sing, but classical music as a musician, like, apparently that's a very rigid industry to be a part of, that like if you're into the cello, you're not somebody who is at the forefront on stage, which is really interesting because I'm sure there's like a lot of miniature politics that go with everything you're learning. You know, like niches are, you know, like when you're in film camp, there's always like script writers, and like I like that we dive into the niches of why people are there. We get a character that reminds me a lot of the Allison Stoner character, and she has a crush on Sage's brother, which is not super surprising. But she's really sometimes it just, I'm not sure if it's like her character or the character even the original Mitchie played. I just feel like they put them in there just as like a texture to be like, this is what people in this camp are like, this is what they do. And they're kind of more of a plot device. Like, she served as like a really important part of Desi's plot line as she was like helping him learn to dance, but really she was just there to have a crush on him and be a good dancer, which, yeah, I feel like we didn't get a goal out of her, and even something simple would have been nice, especially since she and Rosie kind of both played the part of Sage's best friend. It really would have been helpful to have a song that connected Mitchie with her friends one-on-one individually, as opposed to a bunch of different group numbers. Like, that's another thing I think the movie didn't do super well. I feel like they never quite jumped out of the group numbers. Like, I get it, like, group numbers work really well. Like, even the individual videos in between the commercials for this movie were group numbers. Like, Disney must have some analytic that says like they work really well, but you could just tell they're not like adjusting the plot to make a story that makes sense as well as much as something that just works. So that's always gonna get on my nerves about that. They do pretty off the cuff, they do make a lot of like miniature references to the older Camp Rock. It's kind of annoying that they make it seem like they're so famous, like this is the most important camp ever. Like, even in reality, I feel like there's always that camp that like somebody got famous for going to, but like Camp Rock is like, there's Camp Star, they just hype up their own camp like crazy. Like, the fact that Sage left her and her brother's band just to like have an opportunity at Camp Rock is confusing to me. I don't think it's a professional opportunity. They don't come in with it being a professional opportunity or like knowing that they're going to be doing the opening act. So that was like kind of confusing how that was brought to my attention. And then we have the antagonist, who is named Maddie, and she is a dancer, like, primarily. And she's actually a part of this, like, a lot less than I thought she would be. Definitely less than the last mean girl from the original Camp Rock series. But I do feel like that part is the most untouched part since, where it's like they just copy and pasted that original character, put her with some new friends in this movie, and then just kind of had her be mean. We didn't get any kind of character growth or any reason she could be like down on any of the main campers, making her evil for evil's sake, and it's kind of annoying. I feel like maybe there's an extended cut where we do get a little bit of insight, but we're focusing on so many characters as it is that maybe it's just overshadowed by that. And of course, you have to put a redhead as the villain. Like, why do they always do that? Like, that's not really fair, is it, to me? No. There is a scene where, like, they get into a full-blown, like, fight with this girl, because I'll get into that. They make a reference to Camp Rock 2 when Mitchie shows up to Camp Star to challenge them to a battle, and it's such a cringe dance where like they're just doing stuff with their hands and like entering, and the campers just casually do it across the camp, which feels very culty to me. And I get it, like these are famous people, like the past couple Camp Rocks were famous, sure, but like I still feel like it's not a natural way to move about your environment, you know? Something I did really like about the plot and the way it was set up is once we got used to all the characters, all their flaws, all their relationship strains with each other, we stick to a format that's pretty comfortable, which is this whole competition. And I like that all the campers are pitted against each other. It definitely, like, works against any kind of unity they could have as a theme of like the whole thing. I think that's a really cool concept of just like how musicians work with each other and all around. If anything, I wish they dove into that a little bit more, because it feels like everybody had their own sideline. It feels like everybody had their own individual plot, everything they were focused on doing, but not necessarily, you know, coming together in that regard. The Jonas Brothers, of course, make an appearance, and they're the first thing you see, and a recurring storyline throughout the whole thing. And honestly, they're pretty funny. I expected them to be funny, but I was hoping they would have a little bit more to say or do. It feels too real, you know, like the Jonas Brothers did genuinely break up after Camp Rock, not because of it, but, and then they did reconnect later, so it does like read as really authentic when they're acting like they're not getting along despite the fact they're about to go on tour. I feel like their whole situation is that they've just like grown to resent each other because of all the time they've spent, and it's not an easy thing to break. Kevin has a baby that he takes around throughout the entire episode, and it's around the entire plot, and I don't even like know what to say. He like loses it multiple times, and I'm like worried about it. It's just a movie and I'm worried. What the heck? But that's how you could tell like their jokes are real, because they're just acting like they're old. The joke is that they're old, that they can't get along because they're not as young as they used to be. Catching the pattern here. And of course they have to do that one thing where like toward like the end, when there's like a final jam, they have to look off the dock into the distance and have a nostalgic look back at the camp that they grew up going to. I don't want to make fun of them because I literally do this as an entire channel, like, but I am tired of all these reboots and revivals having the main characters of the original series come back for a limited amount of time just to reflect and enjoy the scenery, but then completely like step back away and then we kind of forget about it. I don't know if we'd all do that in real life. I mean, I've had moments where I go back to like my childhood bedroom and I like have like a little bit of a flashback, but seeing it presented in a movie just makes me feel weird. I feel like that would have been the perfect spot for music to take away its cringiness, you know? Like, we only had an hour and 45 minutes, like, I feel like it could have had a little more music in that regard. Nick doesn't really have any individual growth, neither does Joe or Kevin. I feel like they try to portray like they do, but they really don't. Like, they are the stakes in this thing. Like, they are a little disconnected and they're trying to get together throughout the whole movie, and it kind of happens easily. Like, once they get back to Camp Rock, they kind of forget about it, despite all the fighting they have throughout the movie. So it just feels like it's kind of just like a D plot that is coming back and back and back for 5 seconds at a time, and it's like 10 minutes worth of story, but just stretched out. Like, that was kind of annoying for me in that sense. When we get to the song Come On Over, I'm a little like surprised at how the songs are being integrated. I like this first song where they're singing throughout the camp. Like, it feels very energetic, and of course Disney Channel used this to promote the movie. It was in the original trailer, which we'll reflect on later. And I like that we had like finally like a full opening number, but it took like 15 minutes to get to. And I am a big musical advocate. I write musicals myself, and I really liked the way Camp Rock 2 integrated their music as opposed to Camp Rock 1. This feels like it's going Camp Rock 1 route, where either they're going to play a full song or a quarter of a song, like a verse and a chorus. And they do that constantly throughout this movie, and it kind of breaks my heart because I genuinely love the new music. I feel like the new music does a great job at like reviving the old tone. It does a really good job at doing something like modern and exciting, especially the music they sing in the final jam. Like, you have to give the writers and musicians credit. I mean, I saw that Demi was a singer was like one of the people that helped with some of the music, and that is not surprising at all. There's so many vocalizations of just like riffing, and of course Demi had to have a hand in that. Like, I was also kind of disappointed, like after this first song that I really liked, I've only gotten like a minute and a half of songs. Like the Jonas Brothers sung a little bit before that. They only really sung like a song and a half, and it was a part of a music video. Like the show was cut, the music video they were filming was cut off, so we didn't really get to hear all of it, and that was kind of disappointing. And then after we get that opening number, then we get another half song, and this one's actually a reprise of the old songs. And they do this more than once, which I was very confused, because I feel like if you're doing Camp Rock 3 and you're trying to like move forward momentum, looking back a little too much does a disservice. Like, it's not a TV show or just like Mamma Mia, I guess. It's supposed to have its own identity, and I love what the new music's doing. If anything, cutting away back to the old ones, not enough really awesome harmonies and upscale touches like really did it for me. Like, I feel like it was great. It gave the heart of the originals, but it just made me think about the originals a little too much when I felt like the story was engaging. Like, don't make me think about the originals. So yeah, they have 3 competitions, and it's all about like whittling down the characters to like the final 5 pretty much. The first competition is like covering a Connect 3 song. The second one is the stage presence. And then the third one is if they could survive on tour, which the Jonas Brothers are constantly calling their manager, making sure everything that goes on at the camp can reflect what it would be like to go on tour, which I don't know if a bunch of these children were meant to do. But then again, they're all here at camp, so I guess that's the kind of experience they're expecting. It's interesting the way they like pit them against each other for that. I feel like hearing Play My Music again is definitely perfect. Like, the vibe for that song is like they kind of sped up the whole audition process, in which I could have got to know each of the characters a little bit easier, but instead they kind of put them all in front of me. I'm not going to say it's a bad choice. I thought it was awesome the way they did it. I just felt like that was the perfect opportunity for a new song instead of half of an old one. Because, by the way, like, throughout this whole movie, I think there's only 3 full songs maybe like 5 half songs, and then 3 reprises. And this is just a reprise of an old song. And that's always going to bother me, especially when we're trying to talk about a new plot. And this show doesn't really resemble the things they went through in the original Camp Rock. You know, like the first one was about fitting into Camp Rock. The second one was about a competition, which was a little bit more relevant, but it wasn't competition between one another. It was competition between another camp. And this one is doing a good job at like making it more about competition between one another and what you want to make out of Camp Rock, how the characters react to each other. And they kind of did a disservice where they almost made me feel, the songs made me think about the older plots in a way that like wasn't really helpful to immerse me into the current plot. But that's me being a little bit picky here. I think it's even worse. I think the thing that really bothers me about it is just the fact that it's old music. Like, I really liked what I heard of the new music. Why is it cut so short, so many times, so quickly? Then we're introduced to Fletcher, who is like the bad boy that Sage has a crush on, and oh my god, I can't believe Bad Boys are back. Like, remember when Bad Boys were everywhere in the 2000s? Like, they were on Big Time Rush, they were on Ned's Declassified. There was just something about emotionally distant teenager that just made everybody in school really excited. And they even make a joke in this at one point. I think it's like, they say, I could always, like girls like a project. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why is that not changing? But he comes in a little bit later than everybody else, and then when he starts to sing, he gets more of like an acoustic vibe, so every time he brings out a guitar, and this song is like this song made me think of Annie, because he says tomorrow so much, and I just wish he sang Annie, even though I said I didn't want reprises. Like, can you imagine? Everybody's kind of scared of Fletcher because he comes out of a cop car immediately, which I also would point as a red flag. At least talk about it. Like, we gotta figure out what's going on here. And he's just like thrown into the mix. He's not really focused on getting to know people, but him and Sage do share like a connection pretty quickly. Like, you learn he's a good listener when they do like this exercise of like getting to know each other, which feels very high school. It's like it feels like two truths and a lie, and it goes on for a bit, and it does show us a lot about the characters. So I thought that was a really nice part of it. I feel like camps nowadays would do things more like that because people care about mental health way more than they did back in the 2000s. So some of these exercises feel like up to date with everyday life. That's also a thing with the modern day technology. Like they talk a lot about keeping your phones away, and even in the original two movies, phones are like barely mentioned. So it's so funny to think that like back when there were Disney Channel original movies, we just kind of weren't talking about it on TV. Like you knew we grew up with them. Like I had a cell phone everywhere I went. We just didn't talk about them on the TV, or we didn't always show text messages as a part of a story. Like we kind of avoided that. And I know because in film school they said that it's not nice to do. It's like kind of amateur to put text of on a screen. And honestly, as films developed over the year, I think it's even more important to share those kind of communications, because that is kind of how we talk to each other now, you know? Like, it's very real. And the threat is reminded many times. Apparently, even like 20 campers get kicked out of camp just for having their cell phones, and it's a huge deal. So they kind of tell us that a bunch of times, and I'm like, why are you telling us that? And honestly, it does come up later because when the main cast of group, when the main group finally like gets along despite their differences. By the way, it feels like the Breakfast Club in the back of a bus, because the third competition is literally how can they stand being in close quarters for so long? And it actually brings them closer together, which is nice. And then they sing one of my favorite songs in the whole movie, Echo, and that just like reminded me why I think the music needed to be emphasized a little bit more. I'm like, if you're gonna keep hitting out bangers like this, don't show me another Camp Rock song, and don't show me an old Camp Rock song, and then don't cut them short. I mean, like, come on, like, it's a musical. I was expecting music. I wanted music. But this whole, like, scene, like, despite them all feeling unified and together, and, like, they could do anything now that they're, like, connected, which is nice, Fletcher reveals that he's had his phone the whole time. Him and Sage have, like, a little moment on the roof, and I started to wonder here, you're gonna let kids be alone on a school bus throughout the night? Like, is that legal? I'm a little confused on that. If we could have, like, a legal person comment below, are you allowed to leave minors unattended in a bus at night? Like, something about that feels illegal, and or a Reddit horror story. So I don't know why they're even doing that. It's supposed to be a nice, sweet moment between the two, and I guess it comes across that way. It's very nice. And Sage just, like, the fact that he has his phone is, like, kind of a big deal, because it's like, oh, now you actually could be threatened to lose the whole competition for something like that. And it comes up later when apparently a video goes viral. And this is where I was really sold on Camp Rock 3, because I love it when they put out modern storylines into shows like this. Because when Camp Rock 2 came out, like, it was 2010, like, we weren't talking about social media and in our films. So, like, seeing that be part of it, like, that was really important. Like, the big situation is, of course, they're not allowed to have their phones, and when they were singing Echo on the bus, my favorite song, by the way, they were recorded and put online, and it went viral. So, Teresa, I think her name's Connie in this. I keep thinking of her from Wizards of Waverly Place. By the way, she has not aged a single day, and I want to say that's a compliment, but I'm starting to think it's concerning. She looks younger than she did in the first two full movies, guys. What are we going to do about that? How funny would it be, though, if with all this Wizards Beyond Waverly Place drama, all Max and the dad did come back to the Camp Rock out of all things instead of Wizards Beyond Waverly Place? I don't know why. I just thought it was funny. If you think it's funny, please, like, let me know in the comments that you have a sense of humor, okay? Because that was a funny situation. But yeah, now she is in charge of everything, which is okay. Like, that's not going to distract me, but it is another pet peeve of mine when a part of the reboot or revival of a series is, like, just take one of the original actors and put them in a role that doesn't necessarily affect the plot, but doesn't, like, distract too much, but, like, also gives a little bit of nostalgia. And, I mean, she does a good job. I feel like if I didn't see the other movies, it definitely wouldn't have mattered. But who's watching this that hasn't seen the other two movies? I feel like that's just, like, so important. And she basically calls all the five, and they're about to all be disqualified until they reveal who who recorded the video. And that's when Sage is like, oh my god, I know the only person who brought a cell phone. So she like kind of brings it up in front of her. Bad thing to do immediately, and she pretty much outs him in front of everybody. And it's kind of scary because, I mean, they are all about to get banned from the camp, which would really suck. I feel like Fletcher should definitely speak up and say it now, but the fact that like Sage beat him to it, I think they're trying to like communicate that she cares so much more about music than she does about the friendships she's making and like how important the competition is to her, but she's like really connecting with people, and I don't know, that is something I did enjoy about it. She's a very like wholesome character. Of course, it turns out not to even be Fletcher, which is super surprising. Like, I genuinely did think it was him. I didn't see it even as a problem. I was just like, oh, okay, I mean, like, that makes sense, right? But there are some actual consequences to this. Turns out it was Maddie. Yeah, Maddie, the evil redhead from earlier. She just keeps coming out throughout the show, not as an actual threat, but just enough to cause problems every step of the way for the main cast. And it almost feels like it could be a part that was taken away, especially when we found out that it was her who took the video and it went viral. Like, we didn't even see her in the scene that they announced that. So it's like, did you even need her to be there for that, guys? Like, I don't know why you needed to say that. And even more surprising, she shows up to the final jam. So she got kicked out of the school, but she went all the way back just to watch them perform. Like, I don't know. It also felt very TV movie in a negative way. Like, I was hoping it would be more of a cinematic film experience, and like the originals were definitely like more cinematic, but when they did that and had her come back every now and then, it felt like a B plot in a sitcom where they're like, oh, let's just have this character bother them, give the illusion that there's something weighing on the main characters, when really I think Sage had enough to weigh on her. Okay, like her and her brother's relationship, her and everybody else, like that was a problem. Her and Fletcher, when they're actually like getting along by the dock, it kind of bothers me when it gets super romantic, because like I said, it's always romantic. It has to be, because it's a Disney movie, but they could have connected on like a really meaningful way outside of it needing to be romance. I'm not going to argue that it was a negative choice. I thought it was still good, but I just that felt like the cheesiness got me too much. I forgot, the second stage of the competition is the performance, and this is when actually the evil villain Maddie, the dancer, gets taken out, which is so ironic because she was the dancer from the very beginning. Like, clearly that's all she cared about. So like, to think that she was taken out so early was definitely a plot twist for me, but not one that affected it in a way that actually mattered. So that was a little unnecessary. But that's when she kind of started that chain of messing with the main characters, like being a little bit too bitter, but then there was like no backstory to it, no like redeeming qualities of her that made her worth caring about. You know, like even her popular group following her around felt pretty inauthentic. And yeah, we did that in my movie too, and I feel like that was just such an older concept of like just three people following each other around, being the mean group. And watching old Disney 2000 shows, it's like, wow, have they really like not changed? Like, they figured out that worked and then they never stopped. Like, they didn't even bother to give the characters personalities in that sense. Like, Maddie kind of has a personality, but the two with her, like, they're just like props, it feels like sometimes. Start the Party is like, okay, cool, but it's been like 20 minutes since they sing Start the Party, which is the perfect, like, second competition song, I guess. But like I said, like, it was 15 minutes since we had a musical number anyway, and I was tired of trying to poke holes in all the people's acting. Like, I don't know why, like, that's just where my head's at as a 30-year-old, where I'm like, oh, okay, like, I just have to tell if they're acting or they're, like, just theater kids. That definitely kept rising in my brain as a distraction. It just made me, like, I can't help but wonder why they had to keep reprising these things. Is it because, like, they didn't think that enough music would be entertaining enough? Like, that's the impression I got, is like, that's why they only did a little bit of some songs, because they know that we have shorter attention spans back than when we did in the original movies. So they wouldn't let us sit on anything for too long, especially song-wise. Like, the fact that we only have like 3 or 4 full, like, 3-4 minute numbers is ridiculous. And like a little bit of other ones, like, it felt like a huge sample of a soundtrack Disney just wants us to go back to, and that's what bothered me. And even then, I can't put this on in the background like I could in The Heights or Mamma Mia, where I could just choose to listen to the songs. It's like, this doesn't really showcase only the song super well. It cared so much more about being like a story than it did necessarily incorporating the music in the story. And I really think there should be both, but like, it did feel like they bowed out of their commitment to the songs, especially since it was better in Camp Rock 2 than Camp Rock 1. Like, how did you guys like digress and been like, what, they want to see more Camp Rock 1 than Camp Rock 2. Like, that's what I was feeling. Of course, we have to get the infamous Demi Lovato as Mitchie. First, she appears just as a songbook for Sage to find, and it's very, like, sweet that she, like, feels this connection to this person she never met. It's implied that she is very famous, not the way Connect 3 is for some reason. I feel like they're still joking about how old they are, and they're just saying Mitchie is on tour. And then they get another reference where it's just like the mom talking about Mitchie, and that again, it's like, it's hard to find an excuse to have that come up naturally. Like, even if they are famous, like, we're not supposed to like just highlight that all the time. How annoying would that be? So she's in it for very, very short. And honestly, the one thing that bothered me about it, which it wasn't the performance, it wasn't like anything story related, it was just that like no other characters beside the Jonas brothers were in a shot with her. Like, she waved to Sage and Sage waved back, but it's very clear that her stuff was done in isolation, separate from everybody else. Maybe because she's just that famous. Seeing her on Disney Channel though, again, like, that really made me feel nostalgic. I definitely got Sunny with a Chance vibes, especially since I have like a new video of Sunny with a Chance coming out soon. Make sure you guys tune in for that. And like, I just could see Sunny, and honestly, like, I like Sunny with a Chance a lot. But this doesn't feel like Demi as a character, it feels more like her as a famous person. And I mean, I get it, that's her in the movie too. It feels authentic, it just doesn't, it takes the wholesomeness out of the movie in the sense that like, you feel less grounded to it. You know, like, it's almost less of a real life situation because she's famous, and this, like, so if you went to camp and relate to the kids, and you have learned music your whole life and relate to the kids, at this point, unless you've, like, interacted with a famous person, it's harder to relate to the other kids. It's hard to relate to the people in the movie, you know? Like, I felt like it was just Hollywood at that point. She talks to Teresa, too, which is also another Disney Channel person. Like, this all makes sense, and I get why it panned out that way. It's just really disappointing. I wish it happened in the first 30 minutes of the movie, so I didn't have to wonder about it the entire time. And Disney did a good job by revealing that she was going to be in it before the movie. Like, I wonder if they did, like, test audiences or anything and found out that people cared a lot about that. Because, like, if you could test an alternate reality where they never told you Demi would be in this versus where they told everybody before it happened, I definitely think that less people would have watched it because you don't have the, like, nostalgia bait, which honestly I feel like it would have been worth that, you know? Like, I feel like it could have, if like there was like more of its like Hollywood like elements, the things that connected it to the original Camp Rock, then it would have felt more like a wholesome movie. Like, it just felt a little bit more like a Disney Channel nostalgia bring back, and I'm just not sure if it's for the new generation or the old generation, because when they bring back Demi and Joe Jonas and all that stuff, it just feels like that. Something really funny about that situation too is like Mitchie and Joe were like in a relationship in the first two. Like, there was definitely a to and fro when it came to their dynamic, and we just kind of chose to not get into it. There's a lot of like deep character development when they're talking to each other, a lot of subtext that you could tell that there's history there, but it feels oddly cold between the two of them, almost like a negative ending where you're like, they're not together for some reason because, and we can't know why. So it kind of wasn't super fun to watch them interact as I hoped it would be. I feel like they could have done a little bit more when it came to working all together on that. But it wasn't like a bad cameo by any means. It like fit into the story. It made sense. It wasn't as big as Teresa's part or Connie's part, but it was still like effective nonetheless. I definitely think going without it would have been like really sad and negative. So by the end, we do get like all 5 kids going up on stage one by one. Not any of them getting a full song, but definitely like longer than before. They weren't just half songs, they were like longer, and they were a lot more modern, very pop. I really like the Cello Girl song. Like, if you guys remember that, like, the Cello Girl had a great song in that. It definitely reminded me of like new pop stars, and like the way they do harmonies in this movie is such an admirable thing. I definitely would listen to these on my own time, story aside. That's why I'm like, let this be a musical and let me enjoy it as a musical too. Like I like the story and I like the music, but I like them separate. When I could either like the music a lot more or like the story a lot more. I felt like story needed to be backseat a little bit more to the music, and they didn't really do that. I think they're doing that with all Disney movies now, and I'm like, you couldn't just do that with this one. Like that's the whole point. I really didn't like Cliff's ending song. I thought it was really cool that he did a different genre style, and that he was like going more for like, you want it, you got it, bust a move. Yeah, like bust a move. Like he definitely like brought that energy, and it felt more authentic to him, although it felt a little isolated musically from the rest of the show. I thought that was fine, but you should have given me a longer song so I wouldn't be biased against it. When Sage has her final song, it's super positive. I like it a lot. It just doesn't reach the hype that the very first song of the first scene, when they were getting to camp, did. Like I feel like that could have been more, that should be like the final song. And you know, it did go out with a bang when she was singing. It gave me very Cher vibes. Like she was very breathy with it, not in a negative way, but in like, she was very airy with the performance, and it felt very Cher. Maybe it was just also the sparkly pants and everything she was wearing, because like it gave a really good performance. And I liked that song a lot. Like it definitely ended on a positive note. Another song I forgot that actually did a really good job was the song between Sage and her brother, especially since they had so many differences throughout it. It's like the only time we get like a true duet, which is really crazy now that I think about it, because didn't her and Fletcher like sung at the same time like once or twice, but I don't think there was ever like a song for them. Like it's, anytime there was a song, it was about a group of unity and something like that, but we never got like a Mitchie I Want song. We never got like a like personal intimate song. And I think the closest we came to something like that is Sage and her brother Desi. So I liked that. I felt like they did a really good job in that song, and then also just the fact that they were going through stuff at the same time and with each other. That's like the power of music, and that's what makes the music work really well, because it makes the stakes a lot higher, as opposed to being like a commercial break from the main plot or just an excuse to have a montage. That was when like it was used correctly, and I feel like at that point there was only like 20-30 minutes left in the entire movie, and I was like, dang, I think they're not going to give us super full-length songs at this point. But like I really did like that song, and Desi as a character I felt like was like very admirable, and you feel like connected to him, because obviously we don't want to feel like we're selling out to be like commercial successes, and you know, Sage tries to push him to want to go on tour versus like just do music that he's proud of. And in this, you know, he finds the perfect balance between both. And by the end, and when Sage has like her little like moment where she has like the speech at the end, and we're kind of learning about what she's learned as a character, I just find it hard to believe that they let that happen. Like Connect 3 being there, Demi Lovato being there, like you're telling me that there's like no, even in the world of Camp Rock, there's no security, there's no people protecting it. Like if we're in a big stadium and somebody gets on stage to talk, somebody's gonna bring that person down. And I know that's like not a realistic way to go about it, but if we're talking about phones and virality and just how the technology does kind of still exist in this world, then we can't not talk. Like they said that they went viral for that song. So if people are like crazy fans or like kind of insane like they are in the digital age, then there should really be no excuse to not have security. Like, you know how crazy people can get. And if I didn't know Sage, which the Connect 3 didn't ever, they're like, why are we not concerned that this girl is just talking to the audience? And again, I don't know why Maddie's there. I can't believe Maddie's there. It just doesn't make any sense. Why does she have to be there? Does she have to be there? And then they get one song all as a complete group. And honestly, like, this is kind of annoying because I feel like the last 20 minutes is like 6 songs right one after the other. And again, if there was a little bit even balance between the songs in the beginning of the movie, that would make sense. But it just felt like they were saving it all for the end, and that broke my heart, because it made the expectations raise a lot, because it's like, oh, okay, so we better get a really good song if this is about to be the only few songs that are in this. I agree, like the songs were really good. But how are they not really good if you only show 3? You know, like they definitely recorded more. I know there's more that they probably cut in the edit. I don't know why they felt like they needed to speed it up for new audiences because they didn't have the attention span. That's all I can blame it on, honestly. I definitely think that is the reason. So all around, by the time the credits hit, I feel pretty excited. I think this movie was definitely really good. If they were following in the footsteps of Camp Rock 1 musically, then I'm gonna say stop doing these movies. Like, I get it. Like, there's people coming back to Camp Rock, you got our nostalgia, we came back, and I enjoyed it. But if you want to make another movie like Camp Rock 2, where you have the musical numbers be a central part of the story, maybe introduce new things, that would also be nice. I felt like I kind of didn't get to know anybody well enough. Like, Sage at her speech, I was like, okay, I think technically I did learn a lot about her, but it didn't feel like I did. You know, like, I feel like objectively you can't argue with me. Yes, she had a plot line beginning, middle, and end, but she just felt like she fell in the background and didn't affect everybody's plot in a way that would have kept my attention and really worried what her outcome was. The Mitchie songbook, I think, was the excuse to, like, really attach us to think about Demi, and, like, it just feels like a little bit of lazy writing. I don't know. But the Jonas Brothers, like, okay, guys. So all around, like, I highly recommend if you liked these original movies, you definitely watch this one. But I'm just as curious to know your guys' thoughts on the new songs as well as the new story. I feel like I'm, like, not as invested in the story. Like, it's easy to make movies that are like this. But the one thing that makes them special is the music component and how it's reeled into the plot, which I don't think was done in a super unique way. I think I was just tricked into watching a normal movie. I think they tricked me into watching a normal movie. And yeah, going back to Disney Channel definitely broke my heart. It's such a different vibe now. Cable is like gone for good, and I know I'm just sitting here on a YouTube channel trying to talk about the good old days, so it does feel like a reflection of my existence, which is not super fun. But yeah, I hope my life is not as disappointing as I felt by the end of this movie. It sounds dramatic, but it's not that dramatic. So calm down, guys. Now, I think it'd be really fun to look back at my trailer predictions and see how right I was, considering I planted so many questions, like, back then. I think it is fair to, like, actually go back and see what I was kind of right about. Okay, as you know, Camp Rock was a legendary film series hosted by Disney Channel, defining the 2010s for that network. And today, the third installment happens to be coming out. With the first one coming out in 2008 and the second one coming out in 2010, I can't help but wonder what this would have looked like if it came out in 2012, but we'll jump into that later. This movie continues the new Disney-branded television pattern of taking the old stars and having them be the spearhead of the new generation of movies and TV shows, which can always have its upsides and downsides. If you've been on my channel before, you'll know I've covered almost all of Wizards Beyond Waverly Place, the iCarly 2021 reboot, all in their entirety, so I kind of have an interesting gift for noticing some of these things. And honestly, I feel like it's never better than getting the original actors to spearhead these things. But it brings us back to our original question, was it needed to be spearheaded at all? Was it needed to exist? And that's what I can't help but wonder as I look at the Camp Rock 3 movie trailer. The Jonas Brothers have not shied away from the spotlight, being on a lot of podcasts in this past year, a few new albums in this new 2020 age, and while doing a Christmas movie with Disney+, which, by the way, is the only thing that explains why this movie exists, probably because if they got to do that movie, then this movie got to happen. And I gotta be honest, I like what they're putting out. I really do feel like they've had a really good track record of bringing back the nostalgia and balancing it with the familiar characters and energy that made the original band and TV movies so interesting. I've watched a lot of Jonas more recently, and I know Mr. Nostalgia did a video on the complete series, so please go check that out. And I'm excited to see this new iteration. As we know, these franchises are really defined by their main character and, like, whether or not they kind of have this pop star vibe to them, as the old Disney Channel worked on so well. And this time around, they have a girl named Liamani Segura, who is a Scorpio, for anybody that cares. And her history is all with Disney Channel. She was in the Wicked Wonderland Descendants movie, High School Musical, the series, so she's got a lot of history behind this, and you know Disney, they like to work with the same people over and over again, but she definitely has a lot of good charisma and energy. It definitely gives those Demi vibes, and honestly, I think it'll be a lot better of a match than it was even originally. They announced the whole cast, which you can actually look into now. It's like widely available online. And they announced the cast in a way you normally would like a high school actual musical, no pun intended, you know, like when you put a cast list on a wall. Like that's kind of what they did with an Instagram post. Something that a lot of people are doing nowadays that I guess I understand. There's like a lot of hype to it, but it also does give me like indie film vibes. Like me and my friends who went to college for film definitely posted like actors headshots and stuff. Like it just kind of gives me like the amateur vibe, which is not necessarily a bad thing. If anything, it's more connected to the audience. So it's no surprise that the Jonas Brothers became the whole centerpiece for this trailer. And by the way, it's a teaser, not an even entire trailer. They're like trying to give us only like a minute at a time so we don't go crazy about all the things they introduce, which by the way, they introduce a lot in this, like more than I was even ready to handle. For example, the first shot is the original logo, of course, to kind of remind us why things are going to be okay this time around and that our nostalgia will not be beaten down. The Jonas Brothers, first and foremost, come out of the car only to be greeted by Teresa Russo. No, I'm just kidding. She's a different character in this, but it's still cool that she's a part of it first and foremost. And they announced they're going to be going on tour and are looking for an opening act. Ooh, definitely a great entrance for a lot of high stakes to be involved. I also love how grounded this is. It almost feels like the original Disney talent search vibe, like hearing Esteban come on your radio asking you to be a part of Disney. I'm not sure how legitimate those things always were, but this time around it's cool to see it as if it's like a fantasy playing out. To see that Connect 3, you know, the Jonas Brothers fake band in this, is actually doing well and successful, and they somewhat had a revival tour the same way the original Jonas Brothers did. Like, it's so meta, honestly. Like, lean into it. And of course, this whole trailer, all I could think is where and when is Demi Lovato? You know, she's my favorite character. She's my favorite actress. I mean, literally, Sunny with a Chance is my favorite show. I've gone over every season so far, and I just love her sensibility toward comedy. I like her voice in singing. I don't necessarily like her singing in that show just because of the context of the show, but otherwise, like, I like a lot of stuff she does. And when I saw that she was producing this along with the Jonas Brothers, a lot of green flags went off in my head, so to speak. But of course, they're going to do that thing where they don't introduce the most famous person until like the end of the movie or like the second half, and I don't know how I feel about that. They did that in Mamma Mia too, if any Mamma Mia fans are out there. I loved the original Mamma Mia, but the second one just got a really, really weird. Of course, when you do a musical sequel 10 years later, there's just so many weird things you have to account for, like people aging, different song genres being popular. Like, at least they're leaning into a lot of really good song genres in this. The pop rock vibe is perfect for Disney Channel in a way that doesn't fend off older fans, but definitely introduces newer fans into it. Of course, this demographic seems to be teens, just like the original, which is also an interesting choice, because as you know, iCarly and Wizards Beyond Waverly Place kind of leaned toward a more millennial demographic by appealing to the original fans of what those IPs were, and this one seems to be a little bit broader, trying to make it fair for everybody, which makes a lot of sense. If anything, I'm a little bit more confused why this isn't in the theaters. You know, like, come on, bring it to the theaters. What happened to the theaters? The song primarily featured in this is called One Shot, and honestly, I don't hate it. I mean, the hook is really a great vibe, and seeing everybody dance again is exactly what connected us all to the original movie. Honestly, it makes me miss the Cheetah Girls a little bit more as a 2000s fan. I don't know why, I just loved the Cheetah Girls. That was just such a fun franchise, and if they could bring some of that energy to this, you know, I'm not gonna complain. So we're gonna jump to my expert sources, the Disney official wiki, which is made by fans. Of course, you know that they're the most smartest people when it comes to this stuff, and actually, like, learn more about this movie. So of course, it's gonna come out August 13th, 2026 on Disney Channel, and then a day later on Disney Plus, just to get us to watch the original channel, which I didn't even know there was still an original channel. That's insane. The story picks up when Connect 3 loses their opening act for the major reunion tour, and their beloved Camp Rock is their platform for finding the next big thing. So all the campers are fighting for their chance to win the favorite band, but tensions rise and friendships are tested, leading to unexpected alliances, revelations, and romances. Oh my god, how broad is that? That is the most generic explanation for a plot I've ever seen. So the all-new campers introduce bold and determined Sage, who is the main character I was talking about, and her easygoing brother Desi, who will be played by Stone. And beside all the Jonas brothers and Teresa Russo, it seems like Demi Lovato isn't even on the current cast list, which is insane. I can't find any proof that she has anything to do with this, but hey, that's always gonna end up how it is, isn't it, guys? The person who wrote this film is named Eddie Fay, who is a movie producer from the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. Very interesting. She went to school for music and also wrote plays, which is really cool that, like, they got somebody who actually knows all aspects of this. She was a part of the J Team with Jojo Siwa, which is a whole new conversation I don't even necessarily want to know if we should get into. And it's interesting because I wonder if this was in 2012, 10 years ago, if it would have been just kind of like a teetering off of the original film saga. Like, I feel like 2 wasn't as good as 1, and then 3 wasn't as... and 3 has a chance to not be as good as 2, but does this reinvigoration coming in 10 years later mean it's going to be better? Like, maybe that's going to work in its service, especially with a younger movie producer / writer being at the helm of it. Like, she wouldn't have written this 10 years ago, and that's something that is really important when we're talking about this. I'm so proud of the diversity choices, though. Like, they've gotten some really amazing and talented singers and actors from all different walks of life, and I can't believe how well it's integrated into this trailer even. Like, I'm sure the movie will be fine too, but like, this is like really impressive that they got all these people together like this. We actually even see Mitchie's songbook in this, which is crazy because that definitely was a huge plot point for the original movie. We see some of the original sets, which is really nice and nostalgic to look at, but really it's the new actors and actresses that are trying to breathe new life into all of this and make it more than just nostalgia. Although they do put Camp Rock, the logo, everywhere they possibly could, it just makes me wonder how much they're trying to do it. Hopefully it doesn't become a detriment to the show itself. They even have like one quick joke of this guy of this canoe kid losing his paddle, and I don't know why, that's just so funny to me. The logo is definitely awesome and updated, and I really feel a good vibe for this movie. Like, I think it's going to be really good. If anything, I'm happy they waited 10 extra years to really reflect on the original movie and see what worked and what didn't, because that would have been the major red flag. But what do you guys think? Does this look like something you're interested in watching? Or like, how do you feel about the new cast? Were the Jonas brothers featured enough in the main trailer that if you're a millennial or somebody of my age that cares about the 2000s, that you're going to tune in and actually watch this? Like, there's a lot that it takes a lot to get us to watch stuff nowadays, so I'm so curious if this is going to be one of those like revolutionary new movies that bring us all back together, or just going to be a distraction that just shows up on my feed and I click past. I'm just curious. But for me, if they don't shoehorn the love story, I think you'll have some good chances at winning over my affection, especially since I like Demi Lovato. Like, you just have to put her in more than one scene and I will be happy. But you know what, that's just the thing. I feel like sometimes we watch these movies and that's all we could think about, like when the new people are gonna leave and the old people are coming in. Like, I really hope that doesn't work against it this time around. But it's cool that we got a new trailer into this. I really hope we get another one, like right before the movie. At least convince me that I should watch this. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Johnny 2000s, and as you know, I don't normally make videos like this. I don't talk about news or things that are up and coming. So I do like to do timeless pieces, actually going over individual seasons of TV shows. So if you're interested in hearing me talk too much, definitely check out any of those. Just think of the first season. Just think of your favorite season of a TV show, and then I probably covered it. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.
People experience magic every day. The way we think, the way we feel. People don't realize it's magical. Because we have magic in the form of amulets.
And the only one trusted to guard them? The one with no feelings at all. resentment only see you dropping more people that you cannot feel. Have you ever wondered?
Wonder? I chose to.
Echo, do you know what's worse than cracks? Losing people you love.
So I'm deciding more than their consequences. I'm deciding their purpose.
If I don't see the danger, then what's the issue? I've no cracks like Kumari. I need no tissues.
Is there something you're trying to avoid?
Can collect, but won't protect the truth. I've never been scared of the sun till I saw it fall. Didn't tell me what to do.
She gave her love, so I loved it in a pendant, another scented memory.
Use the amulet with your feelings, not to stop them.
Crystal moon. Capable of erasing negative memories. Cool, right?
Don't dance, don't sing, now it's time to fly. No rights, don't fly.